Commander Vecnar stood in front of the large glass window. His forearms were crossed tight against his chest. He was worried, very worried. Through the thick glass, he could see 6 small creatures huddled in the corner. They looked terrible. Their silver fur was dirty and falling out in patches. Their golden eyes were dull and empty. He could count every single rib on their thin bodies. These were Carthax cubs. Young ones. Babies, really. They were dying right in front of his eyes. Dr. Zilth walked up beside him. She held a small computer pad in her thin fingers. Her hands were shaking. Vecnar did not look at her. He kept his eyes on the cubs. "How long has it been?" he asked. 14 cycles since they ate anything," Zilth said. Her voice was quiet and sad. "The alpha female tried everything. She brought them fresh meat. She showed them how to hunt. She even tried to feed them the way Carthax mothers feed newborn babies. Nothing worked. They will not eat." Vecnar felt a heavy weight in his chest. The Carthax were the top predators from a distant planet called Carthaxis Prime. They were so dangerous that the Galactic Council decided long ago that humans and other species should stay away from their world. These 6 cubs were orphans. Someone had found them on a destroyed colony ship floating in space. Everyone else was dead. These 6 babies were the last of their family line in this part of space. If they died here, their bloodline would end forever. "Look at the alpha," Vecnar said quietly. Through the glass, they could see a huge female Carthax. Her name was Sharka. She was 3 times bigger than a grown human male. Her claws were as long as human fingers and sharp enough to cut through metal. Her teeth could crush bones like dry wood. Right now, she was pacing back and forth near the cubs. She was making soft sounds, gentle calls that seemed wrong coming from such a dangerous creature. She pushed fresh meat toward the cubs with her nose. They did not even look up. "She is killing herself trying to help them," Zilth said. "She has not eaten in 6 cycles. She keeps giving all the food to the cubs, but they refuse to touch it." Vecnar could hear Sharka's cries through the speakers built into the wall. The sounds made his translator Chip work hard to find meaning. But some things did not need translation. Pain was pain in any language. The alpha was crying for her cubs. She was begging them to eat, to live. "We tried 17 different species as caregivers," Zilth continued. She was reading from her computer pad now. "We adjusted the temperature. We changed the light levels. We tried different foods. We gave them medicine and vitamins. We even brought in specialists from 3 different star systems. Nothing helps. It is like they have decided to die." "Then we need to try something new," Vecnar said. "There is nothing new to try, Commander. We have done everything in the database. We have followed every single protocol for orphan predators. There is nothing left." Vecnar finally turned to look at Dr. Zilth. His main eyes were serious and focused. "We have not tried everything. There is one species we have not asked for help." Zilth's skin changed color. It turned pale green, which meant she was confused or surprised. "What species?" "The humans." The room became very quiet. Zilth stared at him. Her skin went from pale green to almost white. She could not believe what she was hearing. "The humans?" she repeated. "Commander, please think about this. They are barely a Category 2 species. They only left their home planet 200 of their years ago. They are still learning how to travel in space. What could they possibly know that we do not? We have been studying alien biology for thousands of years." Vecnar turned back to watch Sharka. The great alpha had collapsed on the floor next to the cubs. Her breathing was slow and labored. She was dying too, giving up because her cubs would not eat. "I have read reports about the humans," Vecnar said. "Reports from the Frontier Wars. Reports from the rescue mission on Talos 6. Reports from a dozen different incidents across the galaxy. The humans have something special. They can connect with other species in ways we cannot. They do things that make no sense according to our science, but somehow those things work. That is just stories, Commander. Not real science. Just emotional nonsense." "Maybe," Vecnar admitted, "but those cubs will be dead in 2 days at most. Probably less. What do we have to lose by asking for help?" Zilth looked back through the glass. One of the cubs had fallen over on its side. It was too weak to stand. Another cub tried to nudge it with its nose, but it had no strength either. They were fading fast. "I will send the message," Zilth finally said, "but I do not think any human will come. The station is very far from their space. It would take them many days to get here. The cubs will be dead by then." "Send it anyway," Vecnar ordered. Mark it as urgent. Tell them we need help immediately. Zilth nodded and left the observation room. Vecnar stayed at the window watching the dying cubs and their failing alpha. He felt helpless. He was the commander of this research station. He had resources and technology that would seem like magic to primitive species. But none of it mattered. He could not save 6 small creatures who simply did not want to live anymore. An hour later, Zilth sent the message across the quantum communication network. The message traveled faster than light, jumping from relay station to relay station until it reached the nearest human settlement. Vecnar did not expect an answer for days. Maybe not at all. Why would the humans care about alien cubs they had never seen? 3 hours later, his computer made a sound. A message had arrived. Vecnar opened it quickly. His heart began to beat faster as he read the short message. Specialist coming now. Will arrive in 18 hours. Lieutenant Kate Morrison, Human Conservation Corps. Vecnar read the message 3 times. 18 hours. That meant the human had left immediately after getting the message. She was pushing her ship as hard as it could go, maybe even beyond safe limits to get to the station in time. She had not asked for money. She had not asked for details. She had just seen that someone needed help and she had come. They are actually coming, Zilth said. She had come back into the observation room and was reading the message on her own computer. Yes, Vecnar said. He felt something strange in his chest. Something he had not felt in a long time. It took him a moment to recognize the feeling. Hope. We need to keep the cubs alive until she gets here, Zilth said. We will try, Vecnar promised. He looked through the glass again. Sharka had gotten up and was trying once more to get the cubs to eat. She was so weak she could barely stand, but she would not give up. She loved these cubs even though they were not her own children. She would die trying to save them. Vecnar hoped the human would get here in time. 18 hours seemed like forever when every minute might be the cub's last. He watched Sharka push meat toward the smallest cub. The cub did not move, did not even open its eyes. Hang on, little ones, Vecnar whispered. Help is coming. Just hang on a little longer. But he did not know if they could hear him. He did not know if they even wanted to hang on anymore. All he could do was wait and hope that the human could do what no one else had managed. He hoped she could give these dying cubs a reason to live. The next 18 hours would be the longest of his life. The transport shuttle landed in the docking bay with a loud hiss of air and steam. The door opened and a human stepped out. Kate Morrison walked down the ramp carrying a single bag over her shoulder. She wore a gray jumpsuit with a small badge on her chest. Her brown hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. She looked very young and very ordinary. Commander Vecnar had expected someone different. Someone older, maybe. Someone with medals or special equipment. Someone who looked like they could perform miracles. Kate Morrison looked like she had just finished school. Specialist Morrison, Vecnar asked as he walked forward. Dr. Zilth was right behind him. That's me, Kate said. She reached out and grabbed Vecnar's hand, shaking it up and down in the strange human greeting. Just call me Kate, you must be Commander Vecnar. Your message said you have cubs that won't eat? Yes, we have tried everything in our power to help them, but nothing has worked. Can I see them? Kate interrupted. Her voice was polite but urgent. She did not want to waste time talking. Vecnar blinked in surprise. No formalities. No questions about payment. No showing of credentials. Just straight to the problem. Of course. Follow me. They walked quickly through the station's metal corridors. Dr. Zilth explained everything as they walked. She told Kate about the 14 cycles without food. She told her about all the different methods they had tried. She told her about Sharka and how the alpha was dying from trying to save the cubs. Kate listened carefully. She did not interrupt. Her face became more serious with every detail. 14 cycles without food, Kate said quietly. And the alpha has been trying traditional feeding methods. Every method we have in our database, Zilth confirmed. She showed them how to hunt. She brought them fresh kills. She even tried to feed them mouth to mouth like Carthax mothers do with newborn babies. Nothing has worked at all. They reached the observation room. Kate walked straight to the window and pressed her hand against the glass. Her jaw was tight. Through the window, the scene looked worse than before. Sharka was lying on the floor. Her breathing was very shallow and weak. The 6 cubs were scattered around the habitat. They were too weak now to even stay together in a group. How long do they have? Kate asked. Hours, Vecnar said quietly. Maybe one day if we are lucky. And you checked for disease? Poison? Any physical reason they cannot eat? We checked everything. There is no disease, no poison, no injury. They can eat. They are choosing not to eat. Kate was quiet for a long moment. She studied the cubs through the glass. Her eyes moved from one cub to another, taking in every detail. Then she turned to face Vecnar. I need to go in there. Absolutely not, Zilth said immediately. The Carthax are Class 5 predators. Even when they are weak, those cubs could kill you. And Sharka, if she thinks you are a threat to the cubs, she will tear you apart. I am not a threat, Kate said simply, and I am not going to hurt them. But I cannot help them from out here behind glass. It is too dangerous, Vecnar said, but something in the human's eyes made him hesitate. She looked calm and confident. She did not look scared at all. Kate set her bag down on the floor and opened it. Inside were medical scanners, bottles of vitamins, and something that looked like dried meat. Commander, I have worked with wounded grizzly bears. I have helped orphaned wolf packs. I even worked with a Betelgeusian rock lion that had been shot 6 times by poachers. I know what I am doing. Those are Earth species. These are alien predators. Predators are predators, Kate said. She was not being rude, just stating a fact. Different worlds, same basic psychology. These cubs are not eating because they have lost hope. They watch their family die. They are in a strange place with strange smells. Nothing feels safe or right to them. The Alpha cannot reach them because she is not what they need right now. And you are? Zilth asked. She did not believe it. Kate looked back at the cubs through the window. Maybe, maybe not, but I am willing to try something your Alpha cannot do. Which is what? Being weak. Vecnar and Zilth looked at each other confused. Kate continued talking. Every caretaker you brought in has been strong, right? Capable and dominant. That is what your protocols say. Show strength. Establish hierarchy. The cubs will follow the leader. But these cubs do not need a leader right now. They need a friend, someone who is vulnerable just like they are. That is not in any of our procedures, Zilth said slowly. I know, Kate said. That is exactly why it might work. Now are you going to let me in there? Or are we going to stand here talking while those babies die? Vecnar looked at the cubs. Then he looked at Sharka. Then he looked back at the small human standing before him. She was so confident, so sure of herself. He made a decision. Dr. Zilth, open the habitat door, he ordered. Commander, this is a mistake. She will be killed. Open it, and have a medical team ready just in case. Zilth's skin turned colors, showing her displeasure. But she walked to the control panel. If she dies, it is on your head. It usually is, Kate said with a small smile. The door to the habitat made a hissing sound as it unlocked. Kate picked up her bag and walked toward it. The door slid open. She stepped inside. The door closed behind her with a heavy sound that seemed very final. Vecnar held his breath. He wondered if he had just sent a young human to her death. Inside the habitat, Kate stood very still. She let the door close completely before she moved. The air inside smelled strong. It was the scent of the Carthax mixed with the smell of sickness and fear. Kate breathed slowly and calmly. Sharka's head lifted immediately. Her golden eyes locked onto Kate. A low growl came from deep in her chest. It was a warning. The Alpha was weak, but she was still protective of the cubs. She would fight to protect them even if it killed her. Hey there, beautiful, Kate said very softly. Her voice was barely louder than a whisper. She did not look directly into Sharka's eyes. That would be a challenge. Instead, she looked at a spot just past the Alpha's shoulder. It was a sign of respect. I am not here to hurt anyone. I just want to help if you will let me. Kate slowly lowered herself to the floor. She sat cross-legged about 10 feet from the nearest cub. The movement was slow and careful. She made herself small, vulnerable. She kept her hands where Sharka could see them. Her hands were open and empty except for a small piece of dried meat. Sharka growled again. She struggled to her feet. She was massive, easily 3 times Kate's size. Her fangs were as long as human fingers. Her claws could tear through flesh like paper. She took a step toward Kate. Kate did not move. She just sat there, breathing slowly and calmly. She was projecting peace and calm with her whole body. In the observation room, Vecnar watched with all 4 of his hands clenched into fists. She is going to die, he said quietly. Yes, Zilth agreed. Her voice was tight with tension. This was a terrible mistake, but Kate was not moving. She sat perfectly still as Sharka came closer. The great predator's muscles were tense, ready to attack, ready to kill if needed. Sharka's nose came within inches of Kate's face. She was sniffing, analyzing, deciding if this strange creature was a threat. Kate closed her eyes. She tilted her head to the side, exposing her neck. It was complete submission. She was showing Sharka that she was no threat at all. Sharka stopped growling. For a long moment, nothing happened. The whole world seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly, Sharka began to sniff Kate more carefully. She smelled Kate's hair, her shoulder, her hands. Kate did not move at all. She barely breathed. Finally, Sharka took a step back. She lay down on the floor again. Her eyes were still on Kate, but they were no longer hostile. She had made her decision. This small, strange creature was not a danger. She was allowed to stay. Kate let out a slow breath. She opened her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered to the alpha. Now she turned her attention to the cubs. They were watching her. 6 pairs of dull golden eyes were focused on her. They looked so thin, so sick. The closest cub, slightly bigger than the others, made a weak sound. "I know, baby," Kate said gently. "I know you are hurting." She would not rush this. She would take all the time they needed, because these cubs deserved patience. They deserved kindness, and she was going to give them both. Kate reached into her bag very slowly. Every movement was careful and deliberate. She did not want to startle the cubs or make Sharka think she was a threat. She pulled out her medical scanner. The device made a soft humming sound as she turned it on. She pointed it at each cub one at a time, gathering information. The scanner showed her what she needed to know. Their heart rates were low but steady. Their body temperature was dropping. They were severely dehydrated. Their muscles were wasting away from lack of food. But there was no disease, no parasites, no physical damage that would prevent them from eating. These cubs were dying from broken hearts. Kate put the scanner away. She pulled out a piece of dried meat from her bag. It was elk jerky that she had made herself back on Earth. She held it in her open palm and slowly reached out toward the nearest cub. The cub that had made the weak sound earlier. The cub did not move. It just stared at her with those sad golden eyes. "Not hungry, huh?" Kate said softly. She kept her hand extended, staying patient. "I understand. When I was 7 years old, my dog died. His name was Buddy. He was an old golden retriever. I did not eat for 3 days after he died. My mom was so worried about me." The cub's ear twitched slightly. It was listening. "Everything felt wrong without Buddy," Kate continued. Her voice was gentle, like she was telling a bedtime story. "The house was too quiet. My bed felt too big. Food tasted like nothing, like cardboard. I just did not want to eat because eating meant life was going on, and I did not want life to go on without him." She slowly pulled her hand back. She took a small bite of the jerky herself, chewing it thoughtfully. "But you know what my mom did? She did not force me to eat. She did not tell me I had to be strong. She just sat with me, right on the floor of my room, just like I am sitting here with you now. And she told me something important. She said it was okay to be sad. It was okay to miss Buddy. It was okay to hurt." Kate held out the jerky again. The nearest cub was watching her very carefully now. Its eyes were a little brighter, a little more focused. "My mom said that Buddy would not want me to stop living. He would want me to remember all the good times we had together, all the happy memories. She said that eating was not disrespecting his memory. It was honoring it. By staying alive, by keeping going, I was keeping a piece of Buddy alive too. Because I would always remember him. Always love him." The cub took one small step forward. Just one step, but it was something. It was the first time any of the cubs had moved toward food in 14 cycles. Kate's heart was beating fast, but she kept her hand very steady. "That is it, sweetheart. Just a little closer. You do not have to eat it if you do not want to. Just come say hello. Come meet me." Another step, then another. The cub was close now, close enough that Kate could have touched it. Its nose was twitching, smelling the jerky. But the cub was not looking at the food. It was looking at Kate's face. Looking into her eyes, slowly, very slowly, Kate lowered the jerky. She extended her other hand, palm up and empty. "You want to sniff me? That is okay. I probably smell pretty strange to you. You have never met a human before." The cub stretched out its neck. Its nose touched Kate's palm, cold and wet. Its whiskers tickled her skin. The cub sniffed her hand, learning her scent. Then something amazing happened. The cub made a soft sound, almost like a purr, and pressed its head against her hand. Kate felt tears spring to her eyes. "Oh, baby," she whispered. She gently scratched behind the cub's ear, right where dogs like to be scratched. "You are so brave. So very brave. I know you are scared. I know you are sad. But you are still here. You are still trying." The cub's eyes closed. It leaned into her touch. Kate realized something important. This cub had not just been starving for food. It had been starving for comfort, for connection, for someone to acknowledge its pain and tell it that the pain was okay. Kate could feel the other 5 cubs watching. She did not rush. She kept her movements slow and gentle. She let the first cub set the pace. After a minute, she offered the jerky again. The cub sniffed it carefully. Then it looked up at Kate's face as if asking for permission. "It is okay," Kate said softly. "You can have it. You are allowed to eat. Your family, wherever they are now, they would want you to survive. They would want you to live and grow and be strong." The cub took the jerky very gently from her hand. Its teeth closed around the dried meat. The sound of chewing filled the habitat. It was the most beautiful sound Kate had ever heard. In the observation room, Vecnar felt his chest tighten with emotion he did not know he could feel. "She did it," he breathed. "She actually got one of them to eat. One cub," Zilth said. But her voice was different now. Less skeptical. More wondering. "That does not mean the others will follow." She stopped talking as a second cub began to move toward Kate. Then a third cub started walking over. Kate was pulling more jerky from her bag. She was offering pieces to each cub, speaking to them in that same gentle, soothing voice. She was telling them stories about Earth, about her family, about loss and hope and healing. And the cubs were eating. Sharka lifted her head from the floor. She was watching with wide eyes. She looked amazed. For 14 cycles, she had tried everything she knew to get these cubs to eat. She had offered them food in every way she could think of. She had begged them. She had shown them how to hunt. She had tried to force them. Nothing had worked. But this small, weak human had walked in, and within minutes the cubs were eating. "How is this possible? How is she doing this?" Vecnar asked. He was talking more to himself than to Zilth, but Zilth answered anyway. "She is not doing anything we tried. She is not showing strength. She is not trying to dominate them or lead them. She is just being present with them, being vulnerable, sharing her own pain so they know they are not alone in theirs." "That is not scientific," Vecnar said. "No," Zilth agreed, "but it is working." Inside the habitat, Kate had all 6 cubs around her now. They were eating the jerky slowly at first, then with more enthusiasm. She was talking to them constantly, her voice a steady stream of comfort and encouragement. "That is it, babies. You are doing so well. I am so proud of you. I know it is hard. I know it hurts. But you are doing it. You are choosing to live." She pulled out the bottles of vitamins and supplements that Dr. Zilth had provided. She mixed them with water in a small bowl. "Okay, now I need you to drink this. I know it probably tastes bad. Medicine usually does. But it will help you feel better. It will give you strength." The cubs looked at the bowl suspiciously. The biggest cub, the one that had come to her first, sniffed the mixture and pulled back. "It did not smell good." Kate smiled. I know. It smells terrible. But we are going to drink it anyway because we are tough, right? We are survivors." She dipped her finger in the mixture and tasted it herself. She made an exaggerated face, scrunching up her nose and sticking out her tongue. "Okay, yeah, that is pretty awful. But we are going to do it anyway." The big cub made a sound that was almost like a laugh, a sharp little huff of air. Then it lowered its head and began to drink from the bowl. Kate felt like her heart might burst with joy. "Good baby. Such a good, brave baby." The other cubs followed. One by one, they drank the vitamin mixture. They made faces and shook their heads, but they drank it all. When the bowl was empty, Kate refilled it with clean water, and they drank that too. They were so thirsty, so dehydrated. But now they were finally taking in fluids. Kate kept talking to them the whole time. She told them about her brother, about her mom, about her life on Earth. She told them about snow and rain and sunshine. She told them about forests and mountains and oceans. She told them about all the beautiful things in the universe that they would get to see when they grew up. "You are going to have adventures," she promised them. "You are going to see amazing things. You are going to make friends and maybe have families of your own someday. But first you have to get strong. You have to eat and drink and rest. Can you do that for me?" The cubs chirped and purred their agreement. They were starting to trust her, starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, life was worth living after all. Sharka slowly got to her feet. She walked over to Kate and the cubs. For a moment, Kate tensed, wondering if the alpha was going to attack her after all. But Sharka just lowered her huge head and gently nuzzled Kate's shoulder. It was a gesture of thanks, of respect, of acceptance. Kate reached up and stroked the alpha's silver fur. "You did good," she told Sharka quietly. "You tried so hard to save them. You never gave up. They know that. They will always know that you loved them." Sharka made a low rumbling sound, almost like a cat's purr, but deeper. She lay down next to Kate and the cubs, forming a protective circle around them all. The cubs snuggled up against both Kate and Sharka, finally feeling safe for the first time since their world had ended. Kate checked her watch. She had been in the habitat for 2 hours. In that time, she had accomplished what no one else had managed in 14 cycles. She had given the cubs hope, and hope, she knew, was the most powerful medicine of all. Over the next 6 hours, Kate worked steadily with the cubs. She fed them small amounts of food every hour, just a little bit at a time. Their stomachs had been empty for so long that too much food at once would make them sick. She had to be careful and patient. She mixed the dried jerky with the supplements that Dr. Zilth had prepared. The mixture was not pretty to look at. It was a brownish paste that smelled like medicine. But Kate made it into a game. She would take a small taste herself first, making funny faces that made the cubs huff with laughter. Then they would eat their portions, copying her expressions. "See? Not so bad," Kate would say, even though it clearly was bad. "We are tough. We can handle anything." The cubs seemed to like this approach. They were responding to her humor, her warmth, her willingness to be silly with them. She was not treating them like tragic victims or dangerous predators. She was treating them like the children they were, scared children who needed comfort and routine and someone to make them feel safe. By the 4th hour, all 6 cubs were eating regular meals. Small meals, but regular. Kate monitored them constantly with her medical scanner. She checked their heart rates, their temperature, their hydration levels. Everything was improving. Slowly but surely, they were coming back from the edge of death. Sharka watched everything with great interest. At one point, the alpha got up and disappeared into another section of the habitat. She came back carrying a piece of fresh meat in her jaws. It was from the food stores that the station staff had been providing. Sharka brought the meat to Kate and laid it at her feet. It was an offering. A gift. Kate understood what this meant. Sharka was accepting her into the family group. She was saying that Kate belonged here with them. It was a huge honor among the Carthax. Kate bowed her head in respect. "Thank you," she said quietly. She took the meat and shared it with the cubs, making sure each one got a piece. Sharka rumbled with satisfaction and lay back down. After the cubs had eaten their fill, Kate started telling them more stories. She sat in the middle of their circle, gently petting whoever came close enough, and talked about her life on Earth. "There is this thing called winter," she explained, carefully brushing tangles from one cub's fur with her fingers. "Everything gets cold and this white stuff falls from the sky. We call it snow. The first time my little brother saw snow, he was about 2 years old, just a tiny kid. He ran outside in his pajamas and stood there with his mouth wide open, trying to catch snowflakes on his tongue." The cubs listened with focused attention, their ears swiveled toward her voice. They did not understand the words, but they understood the feeling behind them. They understood love and family and happy memories. "My mom had to drag him back inside because he would not come in on his own. He wanted to play in the snow all day and all night." Kate smiled at the memory. "He is 17 now. He thinks he is too cool for everything. But I bet if it snowed right now, he would still run outside to catch snowflakes when he thought no one was looking." She looked at each cub carefully. "You are going to have stories like that someday. Happy memories to balance out the sad ones. I promise you that. Life is not always going to hurt this much. It will get better. Slowly, but it will get better." By the 8th hour, something wonderful happened. The cubs started to play. It began small. One cub reached out and gently batted at another cub's tail. The second cub turned around and batted back. Soon 2 cubs were wrestling with each other. Their movements were weak and clumsy, but they were playing. They were acting like normal, healthy cubs for the first time in weeks. Kate laughed. The sound was bright and full of joy. The cubs seemed to like the sound. They played harder, their movements becoming more energetic. They were feeding off her happiness, letting it give them strength. Sharka stood up and joined in the play. She made a play bow, lowering her front half to the ground while keeping her back end up in the air. It was an invitation to attack her, to wrestle with her. The cubs understood immediately. All 6 of them swarmed the alpha, making tiny growls and mock fierce bites. They climbed on her back, pulled on her ears, nibbled on her paws. Sharka played along, gently rolling to let them think they were winning. Kate sat back and watched. Tears were streaming down her face. Happy tears this time. "There you go," she whispered. "There are my fierce babies. Look at you go." Her datapad beeped softly. She checked the medical scanner readings and felt her chest swell with relief and pride. The cubs' heart rates were normal. Their body temperature was rising back to healthy levels. Their hydration was improving with every hour. They were going to make it. They were actually going to survive. She looked up at the observation window. She knew Commander Vecnar and Dr. Zilth were watching. She gave them a thumbs up, the human gesture for success. Everything was going to be okay. In the observation room, Vecnar felt like he might collapse from relief. The tension that had been building for days was finally releasing. "She saved them," he said quietly. "That human actually saved them." "Yes," Zilth agreed. Her voice was soft with wonder. "She did something I did not think was possible. She reached them when everything else failed. We need to understand how she did this. We need to document every single thing she did. This could change everything we know about caring for traumatized species. This could change our entire approach to—" "Commander," Zilth interrupted. She was pointing at the habitat. Look, Kate had curled up on the floor. All 6 cubs were piled around her in a heap of silver fur and small bodies. Sharka lay beside them, her massive head resting protectively near Kate's shoulder. They were all sleeping together, the whole family in one big pile. Kate's hand was resting on the biggest cub's back. Her fingers were tangled in its fur. Even in sleep, she was connected to them. She was their anchor to life, their reason to keep going. "She is not just caring for them," Zilth said slowly. "She has made herself part of their family. She is not their caretaker or their doctor. She is their sister. Their friend," Vecnar nodded. He was beginning to understand something important. "We have been approaching this all wrong. We have been trying to fix the cubs like they were broken machines. We gave them food and medicine and proper habitat conditions, all the technical things they needed. But we never gave them what they actually needed," Zilth finished. "Someone to share their grief. Someone to tell them it was okay to be sad. Someone to just sit with them in their pain and not try to make it go away immediately. The humans call it empathy," Vecnar said. "We have empathy too," Zilth protested. "We care about the species we work with. We want them to survive and thrive. But do we care the way she cares?" Vecnar gestured at the sleeping group. "When was the last time either of us sat on the floor with a patient and told them stories about our lives? When did we ever think to make ourselves vulnerable to comfort someone else? We keep our distance. We stay professional. We follow protocols." Zilth was quiet for a long moment. She watched Kate sleep surrounded by the predator cubs. Finally, she spoke. "Perhaps that is what we need to learn from the humans. Not new techniques or better technology. We need to learn how to truly connect, how to care not just professionally but personally." "Some species might say that is unprofessional," Vecnar pointed out. "Some species would be wrong," Zilth said firmly. "Look at those cubs. They were dying. Nothing in our database could help them. But one human who was willing to sit on the floor and share her own pain, who was willing to be vulnerable and honest and real with them, she gave them back their will to live. That is not unprofessional. That is the most professional thing I have ever seen." Vecnar agreed completely. He made a note on his datapad to send a full report to the Galactic Council. They needed to know about this. They needed to know that sometimes the best medicine was not medicine at all. Sometimes it was just kindness. Just presence. Just someone who cared enough to meet you where you were and walk with you through the darkness. Kate Morrison had done that for 6 dying cubs. She had sat with them in their pain and their fear. She had not tried to rush them or force them. She had just been there, steady and patient and kind, until they were ready to take the first step back toward life. And they had taken that step, all 6 of them, because one human had shown them that they were not alone, that someone cared, that life was still worth living even after terrible loss. That, Vecnar thought, was the real miracle. Kate woke up to something wet and rough dragging across her face. She opened her eyes to find the biggest cub licking her cheek. The cub's tail was wagging with excitement and energy. Kate had started privately calling this cub Lucky, because it had been the first one brave enough to approach her. "Good morning to you too," Kate said, her voice still sleepy. She sat up carefully, trying not to disturb the other cubs who were still sleeping. Her back hurt from sleeping on the hard floor all night. Her legs were completely numb from the weight of several furry bodies lying on them. But she was smiling. All 6 cubs were alive. Their eyes were bright and clear again. Their fur was starting to look healthier. They were going to be okay. Kate pulled out her medical scanner and checked each cub while they slept. The readings made her want to cry happy tears. All cubs showed major improvement. They were properly hydrated now. Their body temperatures were back to normal. They had gained enough strength to move around easily. They were even starting to put on a little bit of weight. "You are going to be okay," she whispered, gently scratching Lucky under the chin. "All of you are going to be just fine." The habitat door's communication panel made a beeping sound. Commander Vecnar's voice came through the speaker. "Specialist Morrison, how are you feeling this morning?" "Sore," Kate admitted honestly. She stood up and stretched her stiff muscles. "But good. Really good. The cubs are stable now. I think we are past the worst of it. They are out of immediate danger." "That is wonderful news. Dr. Zilth would like to run a full medical scan on all of them, if you are willing to bring them to the examination area." Kate looked at the cubs. They were awake now and playing with each other and with Sharka. They were wrestling and chasing each other around the habitat. They had energy and life in them again. "Actually, Commander, I have a different idea. Can you and Dr. Zilth come into the habitat instead? I do not want to move the cubs right now. They are finally comfortable here. They feel safe. I do not want to disrupt that." There was a pause on the other end. "We will be there in 10 minutes. Kate spent those 10 minutes brushing the cubs' fur with her fingers and making sure they drank fresh water. When the habitat door opened and Vecnar and Zilth entered, all 6 cubs immediately hid behind Kate and Sharka. Their earlier confidence disappeared. These were strangers, unknown people, potentially dangerous. "It is okay," Kate said in a soothing voice. She knelt down so she was at the cubs' level. "These are friends. They have been taking care of you this whole time. Dr. Zilth made sure you had food and a safe, warm place to sleep. Commander Vecnar is the one who called me to come help you." She turned to look at Zilth and Vecnar. "Could you both kneel down? You are very tall from the cub's perspective. You look kind of scary when you are standing up." Zilth looked uncertain, but she knelt down. Vecnar did the same, folding all 4 of his arms carefully. "And maybe speak softly to them," Kate suggested. "Let them come to you instead of you going to them. They need to feel in control right now." Zilth cleared her throat nervously. "Hello, little ones. I am very glad to see you eating and playing. You had us all very worried. We care about you very much." Lucky peeked out from behind Kate. He watched Zilth carefully. Then, very slowly and cautiously, he walked toward the alien doctor. He sniffed her extended hand, his whiskers twitching as he learned her scent. "That is it," Zilth murmured gently. "I will not hurt you, I promise." Lucky made a chirping sound. Then he surprised everyone by headbutting Zilth's palm affectionately. Zilth's skin changed colors, rippling with surprised pleasure and happiness. Over the next hour, Kate worked with Vecnar and Zilth to create a new care plan for the cubs. They sat together on the floor of the habitat, the cubs playing around them, and discussed what the cubs would need going forward. "They need routine and consistency," Kate explained. "Regular feeding times with the same caregivers. They need to know what to expect each day. They need to feel safe and secure. Predictability is very important right now." "We can arrange that," Vecnar said, making notes on his datapad. "We have several staff members who would be honored to help care for them. Good. But you need to choose carefully. Not everyone is right for this kind of work. The caregivers need to be patient and gentle. They need to be willing to sit on the floor and just be present with the cubs. They need to talk to them, play, With them, treat them like the children they are instead of like dangerous animals or scientific specimens. Kate looked at Sharka, who was carefully grooming one of the cubs with her large tongue. And Sharka absolutely has to stay with them. She is their anchor, their mother figure. She tried so hard to help them before, and now that they are eating again, they are finally bonding with her properly. She needs to be a permanent part of their lives. Agreed, Zilth said immediately. We will make sure Sharka stays with them always. Kate took a deep breath. This next part was important. There is one more thing. These cubs have been through serious trauma, real deep trauma. They watched their families die in front of them. That kind of pain does not just disappear because they start eating again. They are going to need long-term emotional support, someone who understands trauma and can help them process what happened to them. What do you suggest? Vecnar asked. On Earth, we have psychologists who specialize in helping traumatized animals heal. People who understand how trauma affects the mind and the heart. I do not know if you have something similar in your medical system, but these cubs need that kind of specialized care. Vecnar and Zilth looked at each other. We have mental health specialists for sentient species, Vecnar said slowly, but not typically for animals. These are not just animals, Kate said firmly. They are intelligent, emotional beings who have suffered terrible loss. They deserve the same level of care we would give to any traumatized child, regardless of what species they are. She paused, then continued. If you do not have the specialists you need, I could stay for a while. I could teach your staff what I know about trauma recovery. I could make sure these cubs get the support they need as they continue to heal. Vecnar's eyes brightened. The Galactic Council has authorized a large budget for the preservation of the Carthax genetic line. I believe we can arrange a long-term contract, if you are truly willing to stay. I am willing, Kate said without hesitation. These cubs deserve the best chance at life. I want to make sure they get it. She looked down at Lucky, who had fallen asleep with his head resting on her foot. Besides, I have kind of gotten attached to them. Over the following weeks, Kate worked hard to build a complete care program for the cubs. She interviewed staff members and chose the ones with the right personality for working with traumatized young ones. She trained them in how to approach the cubs, how to read their body language, how to provide comfort without overwhelming them. She established a daily routine. Feeding times were consistent. Playtimes were scheduled. Rest times were protected. The cubs learned what to expect each day, and that predictability helped them feel secure. The cubs grew stronger and more confident. They put on weight. Their fur became thick and shiny. Their eyes sparkled with life and curiosity. Each cub developed their own personality. Lucky became the brave leader, always the first to try new things. The smallest cub, whom Kate had named Tiny, turned out to be the most affectionate. He always wanted to cuddle and be petted. The others all had their own special traits and quirks. Sharka was an excellent mother. With the cubs finally accepting her, she taught them everything they needed to know. She showed them how to stalk and pounce. She taught them how to communicate with other Carthax through growls and chirps and body language. She groomed them, and played with them, and protected them fiercely. But the thing the cubs loved most was story time. Every evening, Kate would sit in the middle of their circle and tell them about Earth, about her family, about the beautiful, complex, sometimes scary, but ultimately wonderful universe they lived in. You know what I think? She said one evening, stroking Tiny soft ears while Lucky sprawled across her lap. I think you are going to do amazing things when you grow up. You are survivors. You have been through something terrible, something that would have broken many creatures. But you did not break. You bent, but you did not break. And that makes you incredibly strong. The cubs chirped and purred in response. Sharka rumbled contentedly from her spot nearby. In the observation room, Vecnar watched the scene with Zilth beside him. The Galactic Council is very impressed with the results, he said. They are asking if we can use this approach with other species who have suffered trauma. We can try, Zilth said. Kate has been documenting everything. She has created training materials and protocols. But I think the key ingredient is something we cannot really teach. What is that? Genuine caring. Kate does not just care for these cubs because it is her job. She cares for them because she truly loves them. She sees them as individuals, as people in their own right, not as specimens or projects. That kind of caring cannot be faked or forced. Perhaps we can learn to care that deeply, Vecnar suggested. Perhaps it is a skill that can be developed like any other skill. Perhaps, Zilth agreed. She hoped it was true. Down in the habitat, Kate was finishing her story for the night. And they,